We're back, and in classic Macross tradition, we're going to be looking at the movie retellings of Macross Delta, starting with 2017's passionate Walküre. Unlike Frontier's movies, which started as a recap of the show's first half before spiraling into their own thing, Delta instead squeezes the entire series into its first movie, while the second movie is sort of a sequel/epilogue. Over the years, I've seen a lot of people write off this movie's existence, as it really is just 90% reorganized and retooled footage from the show, trying to condense it into 2 hours. But I low-key think this helps Delta way more than people give it credit for. Like, that series' biggest issue was always how bloated it felt, especially in the second half. While this movie does kill some world building and downplays a lot of the side cast even more than they already were, trimming down Delta honestly felt like a net positive. And most of the changes the movie made I found to be for the better. For example, the love triangle is no more. I don't know what magic they pulled to finally make Big West pull the trigger, but Mirage is simply Hayate's platonic friend like God always intended. While yes, this does mean she gets less screen time overall, we aren't missing out on much when half her screen time was designated to chasing a romance that was never gonna happen anyway. This movie primarily puts Freya and Walküre onto the forefront, and while this unfortunately results in Hayate becoming less prominent, becoming a more static character who inspires Freya to grow instead of growing alongside her, I don't mind this angle. This movie does a good job on selling their sisterly bond. A good example of this being this new hot springs scene. While I could certainly do without the goonery, the conversation itself is pretty good. Like, in the show, they were like, yup, you're part of Walküre now, let's move on, but here they actually take the time to help her grow accustomed, explaining their origins here, rather than that stupid hospital break-in, and then they're in jail. I don't know why they did that. I mean, they still do go to jail in the movie, but that's due to the aerial knights capturing them, which, yeah, that makes more sense. Speaking of the aerial knights, the Windermerian king has been erased almost entirely, which, that's fine, I still don't even know his name, so he's clearly not that important. They also take out a lot of the scenes where Keith is okay with sacrificing Heinz for the war, which better helps sell their brotherly bond. I don't know why Keith was randomly like, once you're king, I can no longer just be your brother. Like, bro, you never were. Another notable change is how Messer is handled, as he dies a little bit later than he does in the show. He still gets the same screen time prior to his death, so I wouldn't say it's any better or worse. But the death scene itself has been improved. Not only did they rework the fight between Messer and Keith, but we actually get to see him dying in Kaname's arms, so it hurts even more, thanks guys. Also, beforehand, he doesn't step down out of his own accord, he's forced to due to his injuries and VAR syndrome. Which makes more sense, because in the show he had this big resolve about how he'd keep fighting no matter what, and then the next episode he was like, never mind, I'm just gonna be a flight instructor. They also make his death scene the final scene of the movie, which I honestly like. I think that's a better endnote than Delta's actual endnote. I also like how they combine it with the Jellyfish Festival, with the jellyfish rising symbolizing Messer. I think that's a clever use of the whole footage splicing. The biggest change, however, was in its final act. Thankfully, this movie ignored, like, all of the show's second half except for the Freya birthday party and Walküre's origin story, but unfortunately, Royd's plan is still pretty much the same. Use Mikumo's abilities as the star singer to put everyone into a hive mind. And I'll admit, by the end of my last video, the show had burnt me out so much that I kinda downplayed his motives, just acted like he wanted to do it because, ooh, I want to conquer the galaxy, but there was a deeper layer to it. You see, he believes that if everyone is unified into one, then Windermerians will be able to live on within this network even beyond their shortened lifespan. It's not a bad motive, I just wish they didn't opt for hive mind again, that just seemed a little unoriginal to me. I do like how the movie has him actually propose this to Freya and the rest of Walküre, asking them to join him, as Freya's crystallization has begun settling in sooner than the show, so her anxieties about dying are there, and that's something Royd is preying on. It makes her inevitable rejection of the hive mind more powerful than just, ooh, I really love Hayate. We get Hayate and Mirage stealthing around to recover their Valkyries, where they find the flight logs showing that Messer really did like them after all. And once they leave, they go back to the series' usual shtick. The hive mind activates, Freya breaks through by singing really hard, and in a new edition, Walküre frees themselves from the Knight's captivity by hacking into the systems and literally tanking bullets. They decide to end the movie with one of the hypest moments from the show where Freya jumps down to bring her song to Hayate, except this time the other members of Walküre jump alongside her. I'm sorry, but all 5 of them flying alongside Hayate, Mirage, and Keith while singing an original song rather than inserting the OP, like, this is the hype that the finale needed. Like, still not crazy from a narrative standpoint, but come on, the Macross versus Macross battle. It also helps that this is technically the midpoint finale rather than the true ending, so it feels a little more digestible to me. And best of all, Heinz declares a peace treaty after the big battle. I have no idea how they messed that up. They swept the war under the rug in the first 2 minutes of the episode. That was still crazy work. Walküre also has this entirely CG performance that I feel like I need to mention. I mean, it looks pretty good. I think the clash between 2D Hayate is funny, but let's be honest, Ranka's Wings of Farewell concert's still on top. So that was Passionate Walküre, a movie that tried to salvage Delta so their sequel would have better material to work off of. And I think they did a pretty good job for the most part. Sure, it's still not perfect, like, there's the underdeveloped side cast, and Hayate and Mirage kinda got sidelined for Freya and Walküre. But they took the good, removed most of the bad, and created a more consistently quality experience. Like, the TV show just had me really frustrated and annoyed by the end, but this movie had me feeling like, yeah, that was pretty good. Still not my favorite Macross entry by any means, but, you know, I think it's worth a watch, especially since it leads into Delta's infinitely better sequel movie Zettai Live, which we won't be covering next time. It's one non-Macross video for every 3 Macross videos, haven't you guys caught on? Also, Macross Frontier Labyrinth of Time played before Zettai Live, so that technically has to go first, so enjoy the awkward 2 video gap. Also, why does Hayate keep saying feeling good? Oh my god!
Feeling good!